Hello guys, you're watching Learn C from Scratch, and like I said in the last tutorial, today I will show you guys what errors compiler shows when we define an identifier going against each of the rules that we discussed in the last lecture of mine. So let's jump to our text editor. This is our text editor. This is where we are going to write our source code. So as usual, first section is documentation section, but as it is an optional section, we are not going to include this documentation section here today. Now the second step is an inclusion of header file. So let's include the standard output header file. An inclusion of standard input output header file is done. Now let's move to an inclusion of main function section. Now inside main function section, we are going to define identifier. So if you recall the first rule from my previous lecture, it says that identifier should begin with letters or underscore. So let's see what happens if we declare an identifier which begins with digit. So this one num here is a variable of integer type, so it will store only integral value. So let's assign 3 to this variable. Now let's write a statement to print this value stored in one num to the standard output stream. Let's save it. Let's go back to our terminal. We're going to compile it here. Look, it's displaying error. It says that invalid suffix num an integer constant. So this one is invalid suffix here. So in order to fix this error, we'll go back to our source code and we'll stick to the first rule that says that it should begin with letter or underscore. So we are going to remove this digit and make it begin with letter. Look, we can insert digit at any position of the identifier except for the first one. Let's insert here at the end. Let's save it. Let's go back to our terminal. Let's compile it here. Look, it is successfully compiled. Now let's run it. Look, it's displaying the value is 3. So it says that identifier should always begin with letter underscore. We have validated our first rule. Now let's move to the validation of second rule. So the second rule says that identifier should consist of only letters, digits, or underscore. It should not contain any special characters like caret, ampersand, etc. So let's include or insert a special character and let it be caret. I have inserted a caret between U and M. Let's save it. Let's go back to our terminal and let's compile it again. Look, it's again displaying error, and this time it says expected equals to comma blah blah before this token. So expected error, expected expression before caret token. So let's go back to our source code and it validates our second rule. So inserting a special character at any position in the identifier causes compilation error. So let's remove this caret and go ahead to verify the fourth rule. So it says, fourth rule says that keyword cannot be used as an identifier. So let's see what happens if we try to use keyword as an identifier. So there are too many identifiers when I showed you that table. So if you remember any one of the identifier, let it be float. I'm going to store 3 in the float. Now let's try to print the value of float. Let's save it. Let's compile it. Look, it's again displaying error. It says that 2 or more data types in declaration specifiers. So let's go back to our source code, and it says, it proves that we cannot use keyword as an identifier. And the last rule says that identifier should not contain any white space. So let's declare a variable which consists of 2 or more words. So in this case, I assume it to be sum of number. So I have declared a variable which consists of 3 words, and there is white space in between those words. Now I'm gonna store 3. I'm gonna store sum of 3 and 4 to this sum of numbers. Now let's try to print sum of numbers. Let's save it. Let's go back to our terminal. Let's compile it. Let's compile it again. We have added extra F here. Look, it's displaying error. Each undeclared identifier is reported only once for each function it appears. So let's go back to our source code. So in order to fix this error, we are going to insert underscore to separate each of these words. Let's save it. Let's compile it, and then let's run it. Look, it is displaying the value 7. So let's go back to our source code. So here we have verified all of the rules that we talked about in the previous video of mine. So guys, if you like this video, keep your thumb up, subscribe to my channel, share it as much as possible, and yeah, don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.